Well, hey, today we're going to talk about the vision of the Belong Collective. Obviously, we're having some fun getting started here, but it is a day that's a little bit more serious in that we want to talk about what's on the horizon, and kind of a little bit of where we've been might be a good place to start. So I want to ask you a question. How old do you think the Belong Collective is? I think this is really important. How old? We've even got like a quiz for you, okay? So think in your head how old you think we are. I actually made it multiple choice, okay? So here's the options. A, 123 days, B, 103 days, or C, 98 days. Does anyone think about that? Converse amongst your friends, amongst your table mates, kind of guesstimate. Raise your hand if you think A. Raise your hand if you think A. We got a few A's out there. Raise your hand if you think B. Okay, raise your hand if you think B. Perfect. Okay, raise your hand if you think C. C is correct. We are 98 days old. We are less than 100 days old. I think that's pretty crazy when you pause and kind of reflect on that. Like, summer sometimes can at the same time take forever, but at the same time be a blur. Does anybody feel that way sometimes about summer? It's like, hold on, summer seems to have taken forever, but at the same time it went by like that. We're less than 100 days old. June 2nd was our first Sunday as the Belong Collective. We've accomplished a lot in that time, I think, from at least my perspective on a lot of what we've organized as a leadership team and as staff. It's been a lot of behind-the-scenes infrastructure work that we've done over that time. I mean, you think about building a website, getting a social media presence, having regular gatherings, especially when some of those gatherings are at a variety of places. We've had gatherings here, but we've also had gatherings as picnics. We've also had gatherings online, so building that, learning how to use the different software that we've used for that. Just a lot of different things have come into play over the last less than 100 days. I think that's really important for us to reflect on, though, that in less than 100 days, quite a bit has been established. But at the same time, we've got a lot more yet to establish and a lot more progress yet to make, even amidst the progress that we've made. I think there's a good story that might be helpful for us as we kind of set up this Sunday together. There's a story about a rabbi named Akiva who was walking home one night on the same path that he had always traveled. And this particular night, it was really foggy, and it was barely visible as he was walking. So he gets to the point in the road where he usually turns, which would lead him to his house. But because he couldn't really see, he missed his turn, and he kept wandering further the wrong direction until he came to this massive fortress. As he approached the fortress, he heard a Roman guard yell to him, "Who are you, and why are you here?" Rabbi Akiva, upon hearing these words, immediately responded and said, "How much do they pay you to do this?" Very interesting response, correct? We'd be like, okay, that's an interesting response. The guard was a little taken back as well. He said, "What do you mean? Why are you asking me this?" And the rabbi prodded further. He said, "I'm sure you get paid something to be a guard here. How much do they pay you?" And the guard responded, 2 shekels a day. And as the story goes, Rabbi Akiva then looks up to the guard and explicitly says, "I will pay you twice that if you follow me to my home and ask me those very same questions every single morning." The questions again were, who are you and why are you here? Who are you and why are you here? I think these are really good questions for us to reflect on as individuals, but I think it's something good for us to reflect on as a community. Who are we and why are we here? This is really important. I think much of our identity as a community is rooted in this idea of being a place of belonging for all people, of being a place of love, that we believe in the radical belonging that Jesus modeled. And we desire to be that community. So when we think of who are we? We are, if we were to really break that down, who are we? We are a community centered on radical belonging as modeled by Jesus. That's what we want to be. We want to be a community that loves in that way. And then why are we here? I think we're here to be a school of love. This place should be a place where we learn and challenge one another to love in the way of Jesus, to love deeper, to orient our lives around the way in which Jesus modeled for living and taught for living. And when we do that, there seems to be some power there and some need in our world, in our universe, if you will, for that kind of love to be expressed amidst everything that's going on. So in the next 100 days, I hope we'll be amazed at all we've progressed and accomplished, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I see us doing more than we ever imagined, because I think as we answer these two questions and as we come to the conclusions we're coming to about these two questions as a community, I think there's a lot of people who need that kind of community right now. I think there's a lot of people who are tired of religion, who have lived in that world for a long time, but yet still want to be connected to one another, still want to be connected to the story of Jesus, still want to have a community that's ultimately pointing them toward the ethic of Jesus, but not in a way that is religious, but in a way that says, like, loving my fellow human being is what this is about, not creating a structure and a box for others to live in. And so I think when I look forward, there's a lot of people that need a place like the Belong Collective. There's a lot of people that are searching for a place like this, and I think the more and more we get down the runway each and every day, we're going to find that in our world, in our context currently, especially the context of everything going on in Christianity right now, I sense that this need for a community similar to ours is only going to grow. And so I hope that you share that same vision, if you will, for the future. But we're going to break that down in some very nuts and bolts ways. There's some things that are going to be theoretical that we're going to talk about today, but there's some things that are going to be very practical about what we're going to talk about today. So just to give you a rundown of some of the things we're going to cover today. Today we're going to have a financial update, because we got to talk about that. We're going to have an update on some of our zip code research, which I think many of you hopefully participated in that. We're going to talk a little bit about facility and this particular location and potentially beyond that. We're going to talk about our goals for the remainder of the year and even going into 2020. And so we have a lot to talk about, but we're going to start with a staff update, and Allie is going to take it away.
All right. So the staff update, there's only two of us, so.
You're updated. No, I'm just kidding.
And done. No, I'm just no. So this is going to take as much excitement as there is about the future, and it is exciting. I want us to hold on to that. I'm going to share something that's a little bit heavier, a little bit more serious, and it has to do with my role as a staff member at the Belong Collective. I'm much more of like a straight shooter. I like to be given information directly, so I'm going to try and buffer this for you as much as I can, but I'm going to be pretty direct about this. But so I guess what I want to emphasize is that my role is shifting. And really what this comes down to for me is that September is going to be my last month as a staff member. So I just want to emphasize my role and my title is shifting, it's changing, but that doesn't mean I'm leaving, I guess you could say. So, and I just want to give you a little extra information about how I got to this place. So, some of you might know, some of you might not know, but I am, and Justin too also is bivocational, sometimes even tri-vocational. I'm not sure if that's even a word.
Should we break down what that means? Because I don't know if I was sitting, I would know what bivocational means. It means we have multiple jobs.
Yes, that's
we get
exactly.
paid in multiple ways.
Yes, several vocations.
I'm working on my NFL career right now. I'll get back to you on how that goes. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Humor is a great coping mechanism.
I knew you'd like it. Whenever things get serious, Allie and I make jokes. That's how we cope.
It's true. So I work for the Belong Collective. I also wearing many hats here at the Belong Collective with only 2 staff members. I mean, it's a lot, especially through the transitions that we've been going through, which I'm honored and proud to be a part of. I love what I do. I also work for Penn National Insurance Company, 24 hours a week doing bonds. We won't get into that. It's very boring.
Really fun stuff, guys.
Yeah.
You should talk to her about it afterwards.
I mean, I can if you really want me to. So a bond, there's three, no, I won't get into it. And I also pet sit. That's been a great, easy way for me to make like extra cash to pay for things. In fact, I just used my pet sitting money for my car inspection, which was fantastic. I didn't have to put it on a credit card. So these past couple of months, this is something that I've been mulling over, and it's hard to wear so many hats within the Belong Collective and also work at Penn National Insurance, and then it's 12 o'clock, I gotta go walk a dog. Like it's a lot to be kind of stretched in so many different directions. And I spent many months talking to Justin, not about leaving my staff position, but rather, this is what I'm facing, this is what I'm going through. How do I adjust? How do you compartmentalize your time? How do you what time management skills do you utilize? So I spent a lot of time adjusting meetings that we would have, times that we would meet, or adjusting my time at Penn National Insurance. I'm very thankful that my boss there has been very flexible with what I'm doing here. He understands very much so my commitment and involvement with the Belong Collective. And I did make adjustments over these past couple of months, but it's just kind of been overwhelming for me, and it's been quite the balancing act, I guess. And I just kind of ultimately felt like, I have so many plates spinning. One of these plates I've got to drop one of these plates. So a few other aspects of this that I don't really want to spend a ton of time focusing on, but for me, parts of what I've been experiencing is that for a year and a half, I haven't had health benefits. I'm not putting money toward a 401k. I'm 34. Like, it's probably something I should think about. So there's other personal things that I'm trying to work toward, that like in the foreseeable future at the Belong Collective is not going to be something that I'm going to be able to attain, like continuing to work by and try vocationally. So that's a big factor that I had to really wrestle with and struggle with and in making this decision. So it's not something that I've taken lightly, and it's really not about finances either. So I don't want anyone to worry like, oh, you're not like getting paid enough, like is it finances or anything like that? No, my bills are paid, I have food on the table, like I'm fine, like financially. But ultimately it was just for me, like I'm learning more about who I am and what my capacities are, what my passions are, and how to kind of balance all of these things. And I haven't even really touched on time for friends, for family, for just personal goals and passions and hobbies that I want to pursue. So, but yeah, this year I've been praying a lot about this, and it's funny that we're doing a Vision Sunday because this entire year, a huge prayer that I've prayed is, God, will you help me vision for my life? In my younger years or whatever, I was always focused on people pleasing and what are you doing and how can I help you with your goals and your dreams, and I never focused on myself. So that's something that I've really stepped into and leaned into this past year. So I've really been praying, please God, like I want to like vision with you, like what do you have for me? And the Belong Collective has totally been a part of that. But I think it's very convenient that there's a Vision Sunday happening for the Belong Collective, and it's a vision every day for me in my life right now. So,
well, I want to say a couple things really quick. One thing I want to say is, as the one who manages Allie, as far as like her role and staff, we've had many conversations. She alluded to that where we've talked about balance, and as kind of a boss, if you will, I've grown to realize like what it looks like to champions self-care as a boss. And one thing I want to say is like, this is maybe even applicable to you. I think there's this interesting thing that we don't focus on a lot where Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. Like, we don't really focus on like the as yourself. Like, how well are you loving and caring for yourself? How well are you taking care of yourself? And that there seems to be this like, almost you could argue ceiling to how well you can love someone else to the extent that you're loving and caring for yourself. And I think when our lives are out of balance for long periods of time, it can be really hard to find that opportunity to take care of ourselves. And I think Allie's been experiencing that. We've had multiple conversations about that, and I've guided her in the best way I can. We've made adjustments. We said, okay, let's adjust the schedule to this instead and see if that helps some pressure be alleviated, and maybe we find a balance. And for some of those things, they've worked a little bit, but not enough. For others, it hasn't really changed. Now, I guess some of the questions you might have, because I think it's important that you know, like our board has had time to process this. I've had time to process this. You have not. And so you're hearing this for the first time. So my first question, if I was in your shoes, might be, so are we going to see Allie again after September, or is she gone? What would you say to that, Allie?
Y'all can't get rid of me that easy.
Yeah, you're stuck with, we're stuck with her now. Yeah, you're going to be around, right? You're still volunteering.
Yes.
Tell them what you're volunteering in.
So the ways in which I will still be involved, and Justin will probably talk a little bit more about this, but I will still be on the board for the Belong Collective, which I'm super excited to still be a part of leadership. I love what we do, and I love watching what we're doing kind of like grow and shift and morph and shape, and I'm just honored to be a part of that leadership. I'm also going to still be the point person between the Belong Collective and Sanctuary Harrisburg and leading those efforts. That's the monthly outreach program that we have where we serve the homeless community. So I will be a part of that. I also will still be helping to lead worship. So that's something that I never in a million years would have imagined I would enjoy playing music in front of people. Like, that's just mind-blowing to me. But that is something that this community has helped foster in me. Like, you guys are amazing. So you're all family to me, and there's no way I'm leaving. So.
Yeah, so Allie's role currently on the board is a non-voting member. Staff, we don't really have bylaws yet, but we've just gone with the rule that staff does not have voting rights in that way. But Allie will actually have an expanded role on the board because she'll have voting rights as a board member, as not being a staff member now. So Allie's not going anywhere. She's still here. Her role in a lot of ways is going to become very much focused on the things that she's passionate about, and also some of those things that she's uniquely skilled to do, and she's going to be doing that in a volunteer capacity. So Allie's not going anywhere. Is there anything else you want to communicate, Allie, before?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just to expand on that a little bit, like, I just want to say, like, it, as hard as it is for me to make the decision of, like, okay, like, maybe it's best that I step out of this staff position because it's just too many plates spinning. Like, I'm excited to actually have the extra time to put toward the ways that I am still going to be involved. Like, I get to do those few things really well now, and like find like even more joy in them. So I'm super excited about that. And one last thing, I had a conversation with somebody this past week, and we were talking about all of this. And we were kind of simultaneously came to this point where we're like, you're not stepping out of like a pastoral role necessarily. You're actually stepping more into the ministries of which you're being called. Like, even though I'm not a staff member, I'm like, it's like I work for God. Like, and as Justin and I were talking about that, we mentioned the
priesthood of all believers. Yeah. I mean, there's this theology that just pretty much is like, if you're a follower of Jesus, you're a pastor. You're a pastor to the people in your circle. We're all called to be pastors. Some of us are called to that vocationally. Some of us are just called to that in our regular day-to-day life and the way we interact with people. If you've ever paused and prayed for somebody, if you've ever taken time to care for someone else. These are roles of a pastor, and I think ultimately we're all called to pastor, and God's gifted us in different ways. And one of the things I think is really good about this transition for Allie, and that I'm actually in some ways excited about, is that there would be a lot of times where it would come to, and you guys don't know, but Sanctuary Harrisburg's on a Thursday, and it would come to Sanctuary Harrisburg Thursday, and Allie would be burnt out already by Thursday. And this is the thing that she's like most passionate about, but she's like tired from the way in which the week has maybe fallen, if there's certain things. And it's not as much of a joy, it's more of a thing to check off her list. And I think this will kind of reinvigorate some joy into those things that you're passionate about, that you feel called to, and that you're uniquely skilled and gifted for, and that God has done that in the way in which he's created you, but also in the way in which he's gifted you and given you experience. So how's about this? Would you like to join me in praying for Allie? I would really like to lift her up in prayer, and so if you'll join me in that, let's pray together. Good and gracious God, we lift up Allie to you. God, we are thankful that you've created us with limits. We don't always honor those. We don't always pause and reflect on maybe all the ways that we're maybe burning the wick at both ends. But God, may this be an opportunity for each and every one of us to consider our own balance, our own energies, and our own capacities, God. We thank you that Allie has had time to pray and think through this, but also seek wise counsel, also process with friends and family, and with this community and the leadership, God. We're thankful that she's doing this in such a healthy way, in a way that not only models balance for us, but in a way that also remains connected to this community. She's still passionate about serving you and about all the ways in which this community is growing and progressing, God. And so I just pray that this transition would be super smooth for her, that she would find so much joy and confirmation in this decision, that ultimately her influence and leadership would even grow through this, God. And if it's your desire to call her back into vocational ministry sometime down the road, God, continue to equip her for that and continue to give her the options and opportunities down the road, God. But let her be faithful with where she is right now and with what's on the horizon, and ultimately just fill her with joy and fill our community with a desire to support her and to love her well through this transition. In the name of Jesus, amen. I want you to give it up for Allie and all the ways she served this community. Thank you so much, Allie. All righty. We're going to move on to the financial update. I'm going to ask Bob to make his way up. Bob's over there. Perfect. So we're pretty much just going to go through the slides here and kind of update you as Bob's making his way up. We could probably get started with the first slide. Bob, by the way, is our treasurer. So give it up for Bob. Perfect. Your mic's right there. All right, so I'll just run you through really quickly our summer financials. We had a meeting back in early July where we talked about our financial goals for the summer. And here's the goals if you can't read them. It's continue to build a financial foundation for future viability. Keep operating expenses at a minimum and build savings as we explore future location arrangements, and make incremental strides to get our pastors back to full-time salaries. So this was kind of our goals for the summer, to make some incremental strides toward the staffing, to get to some type of financial foundation, because if you remember, we were starting in June from zero, okay? And then keep operating expenses at the minimum that we can, so that we can hopefully have a foundation for searching for maybe a new location or whatever opportunities would present themselves. So here was our summer budget that we agreed on our board agreed on. This is our summer budget. Our idea was $10,000 a month, so we'd get $10,000 in June, July, and August, which would make $30,000 in total for income. And our expenditures, we said $21,000 between salaries and between all the things we still needed to purchase. That was what we thought was a fair number. And then hopefully we would save $9,000 and have $9,000 put away in savings for the future. So I'm going to let Bob reveal to you what actually happened this summer. So Bob, you want to take it away with the next slide? You can read the next slide.
We'll do the big reveal here. Yeah. Okay, you can see that thanks to all of you, our income exceeded our goal. We're at 34,878 and change in income. Our expenditures are 15,895.
That's 5,000 lower than
what
we had planned.
Anticipated. And our savings, remaining savings, is 18,983. So, thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
A big thanks to all of you who contribute to the collective financially, your time, your talents. We really appreciate it. And I know personally, when we started this, I put everything in God's hands, but I was cautiously optimistic about our financial situation. And though we have a long way to go yet, I am encouraged.
Yeah. Same. I'm really encouraged, especially because if you look at most faith communities, church communities, the summer is a time where giving usually goes this way. It's just the natural reality. Everyone's traveling, everyone's busy, and so for us to have a really good summer, for us to even go beyond what we expected, to spend less than what we had expected, it puts us in a really good position. To have nearly $19,000 in savings really positions us well for planning for the future. And speaking of planning for the future, that's probably where we'll go next here. We have some 2019 financial goals, and I'm going to make it really simple. It's the same 3 goals with 2 new ones. So I'll read them to you. Continue to build a financial foundation for future viability. We're not out of the woods yet. We really got to continue to build a financial foundation for what our goals are and for what we're desiring to do. We need to continue to keep operating expenses at a minimum and continue to build savings for whatever future plans might exist there, which we'll be talking about in a moment. And continue to make incremental strides to get Pastor Justin back to full-time pay. That might be way down the road. That might be sooner than later. These are all things that we have to discuss as a board, but ultimately it is a goal to get back to there. Next, we have 2 new goals. Seek a lease arrangement for a facility in a location that is best for our community. So we have that savings. And hopefully we would be able to find a facility that would best meet our locational goals. And so we're going to talk about that in a minute. If that's like, well, hold on, I have a lot of questions. You should have questions. We'll talk about it in a second. And then finally, work to create an accurate 2020 line item budget as we plan ahead. So currently we're operating off a very much like short-term budget would be the way of saying it. Even the staff were given 3-month contracts, just more, not because like at the end of that contract we're done, just more like we wanted to kind of review it again and see where we were financially and what we could afford. Does that?
Yeah, it gives us flexibility, obviously, to do that.
Definitely. And then flexibility with pretty much we just have one line item right now, which is operating expense. Whereas, obviously that's pretty general, right? Operating expense, this is getting charged to operating expense. But it's not a matter of like, we really want to be more detailed and have a plan for every dollar. And it's not that we don't have a plan for every dollar. It's that we haven't taken the time to really line item everything out. Like we don't know quite what coffee costs on a weekly basis right now because we just haven't been doing it long enough. Things like that. We're hoping by 2020, before 2020, that when we line item things out, we'll have a good understanding of the rhythms of each ministry and what is needed to maintain that for a yearly cost. Does that make sense? And this is what we previously did in our past community, and so Bob and I have decent experience doing this together. So we'll do it again this year, and yeah, we're looking forward to that. So that's one of our goals, to make sure we have a line item budget, which we will bring to your attention, that budget when it comes out. When we work through it and get it approved by the board, you'll get access to that budget to kind of see what we've done.
Yeah, you get to sit through another exciting budget presentation line by line. I'm sure everybody's looking forward to that.
Bueller. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's fun. They're good times. I do want to take a minute to say this. Bob has been on the strategic leadership team before I even got here to this community. Far back ago, he was called to this team, and Bob made it known at the start of the year that he was going to be transitioning off as treasurer, and we've been working to find someone else on the board who can fill his shoes because they're pretty big. And I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to him, all the time he's invested in this role. To be treasurer on our board is a pretty involved role. It's one of the more involved roles. And he's been a huge support to me. There's been many times, especially through much of what we went through this year, where phone calls with Bob have been really, really helpful for my spirit and my sanity. and also just to know that that he believes in what we're doing here, and he's willing to even put the time and energy into that. I'm just really super thankful for him. Looking forward to him having a break at the end of this year, but also, same as Allie, looking forward to still having him around in other capacities. But I just wanted to take a moment to honor him, all of his time he's given to the Belong Collective in this community, and ultimately just give you guys a chance to honor him. So let him know right now how much you're thankful for him.
Thank you.
All right. I think that's the end of the financial update, unless you got anything else to update them on.
No.
All right. Cool. Moving right along. Well, we talked, probably the biggest bombshell, if you will, is maybe, and I don't know that it's a bombshell because we've mentioned it before, is that we're going to be kind of hoping to find a facility in a location that services our community better. I think it's important to note right here, right now, if you don't know, HMAC is the spot in which we've met infrequently, like 2 times a month. And then we've been on Facebook Live once a month over the summer, and we've also had a picnic once a month over the summer. That's kind of the round robin, if you will. I think this is really important context to know. That actually makes it very difficult on staff, just so you know, to figure out how we're going to get volunteers to different things, how we're going to get equipment to different places. Okay, we're scheduling this here, we're scheduling that there. For the foreseeable future, as of right now, we are going to be meeting here every Sunday. And the reason that is not because we don't want to meet in Hummelstown or we don't want to have those picnic Sundays. It's because we're going to really be focusing our efforts, primarily mine and our boards, and we have 2 particular individuals who Nick Cargis and Kevin Smith and myself, who are going to be really working on a facility search that we'll then bring back to the board with like some plans and some ideas and some options that exist. We want to focus our energy on that instead of having to plan for whatever Sunday we might be having coming up that might be different than a normal Sunday and require more energy because of its difference. I say that because this facility has been super helpful for us to have. Whether it's in here or whether it's in the Stage on Her room, we've built a relationship with HMAC that they've provided this facility to us free of cost, which is, I think, really important that we recognize the uniqueness of that and the fact that we really should be thankful for this particular facility in this particular season. If it weren't for this, we'd be in a very interesting spot financially because we'd probably be paying anywhere from $400 to $500 to $600 a weekend when you look out at most facilities similar to this. And that would put us in a very different place financially in preparation for what might be ahead. And so we're very thankful for this location, and we're very thankful for whatever amount of time we end up using it moving forward. Back a few months ago, we asked you to go to our website and enter in your zip code for each kind of household. We wanted to know the zip code they were in. And so we took that. We also took from some mailing lists that we had that we knew people who attended to the Belong Collective, and we had addresses. So if you didn't go in and put your zip code in, we probably cross-referenced it to some data we had and made sure that as many that we could get referenced were in. And here's what we came up with. This was our zip code research. And if you want a copy of this, because it might be hard to see, we got a brand new projector, by the way, guys. But the problem is this room has so much natural light. It's like impossible to like get it bright enough. But I'll stand up so I can kind of like show you. This is Hummelstown right here. And as you can see, this circle says 17. Maybe you can't see that. This circle says 8. This says 7. We've got 7 up here in Linglestown. These are how many households, if you will, are represented. You've even got this is one household. This is one household. We've even got some that expand off of this map, by the way. So we reach quite a ways. But ultimately, as we looked at this map, it really gave us kind of a target center for what would be central for our community. And that central location, if you go to the next thing, it's kind of like in this box would be the ideal, okay? And maybe we'll go a little bit out of that box if we get the opportunity for maybe a perfect location and it's a little bit outside of that box, we might do that. But ultimately, what you're looking at here is here's the way of thinking of it: Chambers Hill to Hershey. Okay, if that's familiar territories to you. So Chambers Hill, Hummelstown, Hershey area, maybe into Middletown, North Middletown area. We're kind of searching all those areas for opportunities that might be available for either a lease or some type of situation. We're not really sure financially what we're able to do. We have been, as you saw, aggressively saving money, and it might be that we come back to you guys with an option and say, so here's the deal. We found a location. Here's what the location looks like. Here's what's possible. We're going to need to raise X amount of dollars to make this work. That might be what we come back to you with, and we might have to do some type of campaign, some type of strategy in that way. But ultimately, our goal is to move this direction so that we would be more centralized to our community. There are many of you who have made significant sacrifices to get all the way to Harrisburg on Sundays, and we're super thankful for that. We're all making sacrifices, I think, in some way, shape, or form from the community we were used to prior to this. Yet, I feel like this idea and this model will hopefully be something that remedies some of the inconsistencies or just difficulties, challenges that exist currently in our community and where we meet. So here's some things we're thinking about for this new space. One of the big things is we definitely need a space for kids. We could do it if we want. We could put our kids in stage on her. I don't know how many parents are going to be cool with that. No, I'm just kidding. My kids can go down there. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, we would have a difficult time, I guess it's important to say this. This is a bar, okay? And it's a bar right now. And so having a kids ministry here, while for our kids, those of us who are here who have caught the vision, might feel natural, it will not feel natural for someone who's walking in for the first time probably. And it's also just difficult to make a space like this safe for kids. And not safe. Even just the space itself is certain parts of it aren't necessarily, kid proof is what I guess I'm trying to say. Not necessarily that there's increased safety issues. I'm just more saying kid proof. So we want to find a space that hopefully can be divided in a way that would allow us to have a kids ministry, because I think that's really important. Also, a space that would hopefully allow us to have no more setup teardown. That we could have something that is set up regularly. It might even give us an office space that allows for myself to not work at Starbucks or out of the house, but actually have office space. We would have a normal Sunday to Sunday experience and expectation if we were at the same location every Sunday. For many of you, I even get emails regularly. So where are we meeting this Sunday? We're trying to keep you informed of that, but at the same time, if you fall out of that loop, you might have to actually go check our website to find out where we're meeting that particular Sunday. That can be a hindrance to people. I think it's important that we recognize that while that might be a normal rhythm for us, that's difficult for some people to get into the rhythm of attending a community where that's something that they have to go through. I think consistency is always helpful. We haven't had a consistent summer, but the truth is if I asked you about your particular summer schedule, you could probably show me that it wasn't very consistent, right? It's kind of always varied in the summer. You're moving around from here to there. You got this week of vacation over here. You got this going on over here, traveling, whatever. So we made it through the summer with inconsistency, but the goal is that we will get to a consistent place, and we feel like this facility will offer us that. So, with that said, if you are aware of any facilities in the particular area, feel free to shoot me an email. Let me know. if you're aware of anything. It might be that you send it to me and I'm like, nope, that's not going to work. We don't really have like a set price range, like here's exactly what we're looking for. We're really kind of looking for facilities that might fit what we need, and then kind of from there kind of working through, okay, is that something that we could potentially afford, whatever renovations would be needed to make to the facility, and also whatever the rent would be monthly. So I'm going to ask you for this. Please be in prayer for myself, Nick Cargis and Kevin Smith, as we are kind of entering into this search, that God would open a door, that there might even be a location that's like perfect for us, and ultimately will be a space that we will grow into, that might even give us more influence, that ultimately might open the door to whole new opportunities that we didn't even imagine. What we don't really want to do is like have, I don't know, I've been in churches like this before where like 80% of the budget is spent on the facility. I think we want to be really cautious to that, and like we really want to enter into something that hopefully will be affordable, something that will be sustainable. So just be in prayer that we might find that perfect location that fits the space, the location we want on the map, the things that we need to kind of check off the box of what we desire, and ultimately that hopefully would be something that budgetarily we can withstand. So what that leaves me with is some goals to kind of walk you through. We talked about the financial goals, but now I want to kind of talk to you about some of our just Belong Collective goals, which they will intersect, but here they are. The goal would be to be in a new facility by the end of 2019. That's kind of aggressive. We want to acknowledge the aggressiveness of that, because it might be that the facility that we need to get into needs some renovations, who knows. But ultimately, like, we want to be aggressive about this. And here's why we want to be aggressive, because we understand how difficult it has been over the last less than 100 days for you to travel the ways in which you've traveled, for you guys to get here, to have the different system, for many of you as volunteers to have to come in and set up, and we don't know what we're going to inherit when we walk in this room. If we're going to have to clean before we set up, if we're going to have to set up, it's just part of the deal. That's something we have to work through. And so we want this to be an aggressive timeline. So hopefully by the end of 2019, that's our goal, okay? That's the ideal. Have our first full detailed budget, 2020, which we talked about. Finalize all organizational needs, bylaws, 501c3 constitution. So we're still in the process of the 501c3 app. Now, your donations are still non-taxable donations. Like, that's all still good. But ultimately, we have 2 years to file the 501c3 app. We're filing it way before 2 years, as organizations should. But you have to really go through. It's like a 25-page app. And by 25 pages, I mean every page multiple times on that page wants you to add addendums. And so, like, it's a lot of work. It's actually probably going to be something that's going to take, like, I'm going to carve out like a whole week to sit down. Our intern DJ, who hasn't been around much because he's taken a new job where he works on Sundays, is working with me on that. He has some law background. He's actually going into law, and so he's working with me on that, and we're kind of going through the whole 501c3. We also need to figure out our bylaws, because that's part of the 501c3 app. So it's going to end up probably being like hundreds of pages or 100 pages plus. So that's some work that we got to get done. The sooner the better. So that's a big goal. It's a goal that you won't see. Does that make sense? There's a lot of work that's hard because you guys probably aren't seeing it, but it is a lot of time and focus and energy. So that's something that needs to get done. Start an outreach campaign to reach new people. Hey, we want to reach beyond ourselves. It's not just about us who are here. We want to reach beyond and out beyond. And some of that might not be possible until we have some consistency, a facility, a regular rhythm. But at the same time, we want to reach beyond ourselves. We haven't really done any marketing outside of just posting to Facebook. We haven't done any ads, any marketing of any kind. So we would love to do that, and to have a strategic, outreach model at some point in the near future. And then finally, we want to increase volunteer participation at the Belong Collective. We want to get more people volunteering in a variety of ways. And so to kind of talk more about that, Allie's going to make her way back up. And by the way, I didn't say this earlier, but there will be a time for Q&A coming up here after this portion. We'll have a time for Q&A. So I want to start by saying Allie's role largely, or one of her primary roles, if you will, was managing our volunteers. And we use an app called Planning Center. And maybe some of you are familiar with Planning Center. It's kind of how we book all of our volunteers. And this has been really, a lot to manage. Allie is constantly trying to plug and play, if you will, like each Sunday. How are we going to get this person here? Who's leading here? How's this working here? And that's administratively speaking, that's a decent portion of your job. And so we've been thinking about so who does that fall to as you transition out of this role? Because I'm sitting here not me. I mean, I've had to do it for a week or something when she's away or things like that. But to do it regularly is quite the job. So we've explored some ways of automating that. And Planning Center has options, but ultimately we've stumbled across a new app called Vomo, which is far better than Planning Center. And here's what I want to say. Why we're doing this is because we need to increase our volunteers. We need to manage this better. But with Allie stepping back, if we don't find a way to do what we're doing, to have something like Vomo and to utilize it well, that will ultimately fall on myself or the board. And it's just not another thing at this particular time that we can shoulder. And so really listening well to this next portion and following through would be a huge help if you ever desire to volunteer at the Belong Collective. Even if you're not volunteering now, but you desire to volunteer in the future, this is really important information. So I'll give it to Allie.
All right. So, sorry, I got to stand and talk.
You're fine.
So Vomo is an app that you're going to access on your phone. It allows you to sign up for the volunteer spots that make the Belong Collective function each Sunday. And as you volunteer through this app, your hours actually grow, and you actually get even perks, which I think is really cool. Through Vomo, you get perks like ebooks and gift cards. And we have a little video just to give you a taste of Vomo, and then I'm going to go through and explain it more, but check this out.
Hey church, what if I told you on average you touch your phone about 2,600 times a day? It's true. We use our phones and screens to communicate, entertain ourselves, and to share photos of our food. What if our phones gave us the power to make an immediate impact? See, we believe that every person is gifted with a unique way to live out God's calling in their life. Maybe you have the gift of hospitality. Maybe you're great with tools or teaching kids, or perhaps you're more of a behind-the-scenes kind of person. Whatever your gift is, we want to show you exactly how you can make an impact right here in our church and in our community. That's why we're proud to announce a special resource on your phone called Vomo. With Vomo, you can be connected to any of our ministry opportunities in just 3 clicks. And the more you serve, the more your volunteer resume grows with you, and you can even earn rewards like ebooks and gift cards. Be on the lookout for an email invitation from our church to get started serving and making your unique impact today.
Okay, so this morning you may have actually already received an email from the Vomo app inviting you to sign up for Vomo. Today, before you leave, we've already scheduled an email from the Belong Collective email to also invite you with a link. If you're not connected through the emails that are getting sent out, we do have links to Vomo printed out that you can take with you today to access the app and get connected to Vomo. And actually, I want to say, too, before I get into this, at the end of service today, because I'm going to go through this stuff pretty quickly because it is already noon and I want to leave time for Q&A. I'm going to be back at this table at the end of service today. So if you have questions about Vomo, you want help getting Vomo on your phone today, myself, Alan, and Kyle will be back there helping you if you want to get this on your phone today.
You can ask the millennials for help is what she's saying if you don't know how to put an app on your phone. Sorry.
You fall in that category, too.
It's a dig. It's a dig. Those darn millennials.
So yeah. So I just want to start by saying this. So we're going to primarily be using this app on our phones, and it is the way that we're going to be volunteering going forward. This places you in the driver's seat. This kind of pushes responsibility out to the community to sign up to volunteer. I'm no longer going to be sending emails coordinating volunteers. You are coordinating yourselves through this app. But it's so easy. How many people, I know I've had tapped on some of you to get connected already through VOMO. Some of you already signed up. How many are signed up right now? Okay, like a handful, yep. And out of those people, I asked each of them, how easy was it to get on there? So easy. Took me 5 minutes, done. Like within minutes, I got texts back, done. Very easy to navigate. So I just want to go down through how you're going to do this. So first step is to download the app. We're encouraging you to do this on your phone, but you can use your laptop as well. They do prefer, or I guess it works best through Google Chrome, but you can use it on your laptop or desktop as well. Second step is you're going to create a login. Again, super simple process. Some have already signed up. It's taken them 5 minutes or less. And the next step is simply to browse the volunteer options and dates. So you're going to go through and you're going to see hospitality, greeting, or coffee, the different roles that we have, slides, even sound. And you're going to click on that. You're going to see the dates that are listed. You're going to highlight the date that you want. At the bottom, it simply says, I'm ready. So you click I'm ready for that date. It's going to show you, that date that you're saying you're ready for, and then you're going to click to confirm that you're signing up for that date. At that point, I strongly want to encourage you, put that date in your personal calendar. The app will send you emails to remind you. You can still access the app and see a list of all the dates that you signed up for, but technology sometimes fails us. So please put those dates in your own personal calendar. And then just some vital information about signing up for these shifts, just as general things. Please just take it pretty seriously. Like, don't sign up for a date that you're not sure you can commit to, because this is us really putting the responsibility out to our community to support what happens at the Belong Collective every Sunday. So if you're signing up for a date, you're committing to it. But we do understand life happens. Sometimes things come up and you won't be able to make your shift. This is where the responsibility, again, is on your shoulders. So if you know ahead of time, I signed up for this date, but now I can't do it, you are responsible for finding your replacement.
Which is a shift if you've been in our volunteer queue, because typically it'd be a text to Allie, and then Allie would be out searching, and sometimes even on a Saturday looking for something. So this is one of the big keys, because we will have Sundays where you show up and there's not coffee if something doesn't happen, and or there's things are falling behind. So like this, I understand right now, like there's a certain level of like seriousness that Allie and I are talking with right now, and that's largely because we know what's on the horizon come October when Allie's not on staff if we haven't really rolled out VOMO the right way. So I just want to emphasize, like, this is really a challenge to our community if you are volunteering to really morph into this new way of volunteering, take this step, take this challenge, and then also if you're considering volunteering with us, to onboard in this way. And we're going to give you all the tools we can to help it be easy on you, but we do want a certain level of ownership with all of our volunteers. Not that you haven't had ownership in the past, but that your ownership is expanding now.
Yes. So part of the tools that we're going to provide, or that are available to help you if you cannot make a volunteer shift, is through the VOMO app. There are groups that the administrator, currently myself, will add you to that group. And then, so for each ministry, there are also ministry groups. So you can communicate with other volunteers through those groups to post and say, hey, I signed up for this date, I can no longer do it. Can so-and-so, or can you, is there anybody here in this group that's already a slides volunteer? Can you step in and do it? So you'll have that platform, like through the VOMO app, to do that. Also, our Facebook group. So we have the Belong Collective Facebook group that many of you are a part of, but if you're not, again, back at the table, we have a sign-up sheet for that. So if you're not a part of the Facebook group, sign up for that. And so you can post in the Facebook group as well to kind of get your shift out there and to kind of request for some help for somebody to fill the date that you can't make. So there are multiple ways that you can do that. So, and then if there is a last minute emergency, and this, I just want to emphasize, the responsibility is largely on your shoulders, but we do understand there are emergencies, there are things that happen. So this is kind of like a last resort. If you have to kind of last minute say, I can't make this, you can email tbcvomo at Gmail. This is a Gmail account.
This will be online too.
Yes,
we'll put all
we'll
the
post all of
information
this
on our website.
Yep. So you're going to email tbcvomo at gmail.com. And for now, myself, and we have another volunteer, Alana Bolin. Some of you know her. She's going to help take over this point of contact for these kind of emergency type of situations. But yeah, the big point of this is to kind of give you the power to kind of coordinate yourselves, but along with that power comes great responsibility.
Is this Batman? What is this?
Yes.
Or is that Spider-Man? What is that? It's a Spider-Man reference. Okay. Cool.
We're all superheroes, right? But VOMO is going to be the tool to help us kind of take on this responsibility and this ownership and this kind of burden of coordinating volunteers. It's going to be spread between all of us. I have some extra notes, but...
How about this? If you have follow-up questions about VOMO, talk to Allie about it, or you can ask them right now in the Q&A. I know we're a little bit over time, and some people clearly have commitments, but we definitely want to give a time for Q&A. So if you're here and you have questions about anything we've talked about up to this point, we'll give like 10 minutes for questions, and then we will wrap it. I think it's really important that we have a time for you guys to ask any questions you might have. We'll also, like she said, afterwards we'll have the sign up for VOMO in the back, and you can ask follow-up VOMO questions. All right, any questions, Q&A? Oh, Glenn. It is a long walk. You want some water? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm all caffeinated, highly caffeinated. I just want to thank you, Allie, for your service to the bridge over the years, and I'm glad you're still going to be serving in the future. That's awesome. Just curious if there's any plans to hire another part-time staff person at this time, or is it purely going to be volunteer basis at this time? Thanks.
That's a good question. We should have probably even just addressed that. Our plans right now are not to hire. Our plans right now are to try to automate much of what Allie did, the critical nature of her role, trying to really automate some of that. And some of the other critical natures of her role are things that she wants to do as a volunteer, which is good, which serves us well. And then some of the other things, for a period of time might not happen or might not be as smooth as they previously were. I think when you look at our staff salaries right now, growing staff-wise is not a priority of this community right now. It just can't be, especially with an unknown facility search on the horizon. I think our contracts went till the end of September, And by the way, that contract going to the end of September has nothing to do with Allie transitioning. That was just, like we said earlier, to give us some flexibility on coming back in October with a desire to potentially provide the pastors more pay. I think we'll probably round out the year at the same rate where I'm at currently, so that we can remain financially viable for whatever's ahead facility-wise, and also for the foundation of our finances. I say that to say I don't think we would want to be hiring somebody else and expending that financially when we have some financial unknowns and some potential opportunities that might require some lump sums or some things like that. So, yeah. That we definitely want to grow probably in the future when we're prepared for it in staff. We would definitely want that. But right now, not so much. Other questions? That was a good one.
I just do want to add, I know we
Go
do,
ahead.
just to piggyback off of that, like we do think creatively when it comes to volunteer opportunities, but also internships.
Yeah, internships,
And, you know, as we transition into a new facility, like, I don't know, there might be a part-time role that we see benefit in hiring for, but definitely not like a full-time capacity, I don't think, at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you know any college kids who want to intern, just let us know. We're always looking for, the intern labor. Get me my coffee. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. No. Other questions, thoughts, comments? You guys are all pretty satisfied with what we shared, okay? That tells me we prepared well. I hope. Okay. Well, here's the deal. I don't want to keep you guys. I know it's football, and you all got to get going. Although Steelers fans don't have anything to do till tonight, to commiserate about till tonight. So sorry, guys. I'm going to pray for us, and I'll let go. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted just a reminder, if you have questions about VOMO, if you want to talk to us about T-shirts, we'll be back in the back for that.
How about this? Allie will be back there if you have questions about VOMO specific, or if you have T-shirt stuff. I'll stay up here if you have questions about any of the Vision Sunday stuff we've talked about, because I definitely want to open it up if maybe you have a question, but you didn't feel comfortable coming to the mic and sharing that question. I want to be accessible and make sure that we're kind of sharing with you all of our process on many things. I know it's a lot of information, and I also know you don't get to see the step-by-step process that brought us to the decisions we've made or to the goals that we've created. And so with that being the case, please come ask why we are doing that, or and I can expound more on some of that if that's a concern you have. So let me pray for us. Good and gracious God, we thank you for this community. We thank you for the opportunity to grow in love for one another and for you, and ultimately for our community. God, continue to shape us into looking more and more like Jesus every single day. May we see the model of Jesus as a way of living, as a way of loving, and may we ultimately grow in that reality more and more each and every day in our relationships in this world, those that we are close to and those that we might just even pass on the street, God, that we would be known as people who love deeply, and that this community would be known as a community that loves deeply. And as we vision for the future, God, we know that you can do far more, immeasurably more, as the scriptures say, than we can even imagine. And so challenge our imaginations for all that is possible in this space with this community, God. And open doors that we never saw opening. Expand the possibilities that exist here, God. Ultimately, we know it'll be by you, not by us. And so we're going to continue praying for a miracle. It feels miraculous, all that we've accomplished in less than 100 days of existence. And God, we know that in the next 100 days, you can do some pretty amazing stuff. And so be with us, growing us as individuals, growing us as a community, and opening and expanding our influence and all the doors. God, just continue to show us your grace and mercy and power and even purpose for this community, God. In the name of Jesus, amen. All righty, have a good week. We'll be back here 11 o'clock next week. See ya.